This is a special bonus episode of the Wet Fly Swing podcast, where we dig into the winter steelhead gear you need for success this season. Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Dave from Wet Fly Swing. I've got a little bonus episode for you today. I'm gonna walk through the ultimate winter steelhead fly fishing gear list. This is a blog post that I published recently, and you can find that at wetflyswing.com/winter gear. And what it is basically we are getting pretty close to heading out on the OP trip, and I had a few of the guests who are coming along had some questions about gear, so I kind of went maybe a little overboard on this one, but I broke this thing down from the basics. And, you know, for somebody who's brand new to it, never gone out before, I put a list together of all the gear you need for a winter steelhead trip. So this doesn't apply necessarily, you know, everything doesn't apply to every winter steelhead trip. If you're fishing, you know, nymphing, stuff like that, some of it might be different here. I'm talking about basically swinging flies. So if you go there to the wetflyswing.com/winter gear, you'll see this blog post, and right at the top there's a grab the PDF. There's just a checklist, and essentially it's just a copy of this episode and on a PDF form, so you can take a look at that. But I've got it broken up into basically kind of three main categories. The first one is winter steelhead fly fishing gear. The second one is winter steelhead apparel. And the third is kind of the extras, little things that you don't necessarily have to have, but they're bonuses. And I also added a kind of category 4 with a few popular podcasts and some other just kind of the go-to summary items. So let's just jump into this. I want to go through, I'm not going to hit everyone. You can take a look at the post. I'm going to hit the main ones as we go through this. And right at the top, I kind of start with the rod because that's obviously an important piece. You know, there's so many great rods out there. If you've been listening to this for a while, I've been kind of promoting Echo, and I've used Echo for a long time. And the rod, especially for this trip, is the Echo Full Spay, and this is in the 8 weight version, 13 foot. So this is kind of your standard. I've got a little video there on the site with a little unboxing video I put together with me opening it up so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, so this rod is pretty, it's a good value. It's a great rod, and it's really good for the larger rivers, tossing heavier lines. You know, being an 8 weight, it's kind of at the upper end. A 7 weight would also work, and the 7 weight is probably more in the middle of the road as far as winter steelhead versus summer. So that would be kind of a great rod for your Deschutes River as well as some of the heavier winter steelhead. If you were going just summer, you might want to go with the 6 weight. But for this trip, which I'm kind of focusing on the OP and some of the bigger rivers, I recommend the 8 weight. So you can take a look there at that. There's some other additional information. And also at wetflyswing.com/echo, that'll redirect you to the Gorge Fly Shop, which is one of our partner companies, and where you could pick up that rod. And if you buy it there, that'll give the podcast here a commission at no extra charge to you. So it's I think it's kind of a win-win. So moving down, the next number 2 in this is just they're talking about the lines, and I've got a little video of Tim Rajeff talking about the Airflow Fist, which is the line I've been using. Great winter steelhead line, a triple density line. So you can kind of see some of the information there at the video. Tim talks about that. But on this upcoming trip, we're heading out with Jack Mitchell from the Evening Hatch. And Jack notes that in his summary, you should have, not only a normal Skagit line, but a triple or dual density is good to have on the trip. So sinking lines, you definitely want to have some sinking lines, and Jack again recommends various sink tips in the range from 3.9 inches per second to 11 inches per second. And this, you could break that out to kind of the tips, and essentially like T, I guess you can go lower, but Mariusz again, who I had on, who was from Echo in a past podcast, or actually, you know what? Mariusz was not in a past podcast. He was in I'm talking in the future, but he's coming up here pretty soon, I think maybe in a month. But I already interviewed him and we talked about it, and he recommended just kind of the T11, T14 standard, like 10 foot is a good lengths, good standards to get. Then I keep going down. There's a little video of deck on some Skagit casting tips I put in there. And I also did note, if you're going to do single hand, that, you can do single hand. Let's see here. I don't have any other details there, as opposed on top of just saying that 8 weight single hand is what you need. Reels. There's a ton of reels out there that are great. Obviously, the drag is important for steelhead and holding all your lines, so you can match that up. Tippet, keep heading down. Maxima is what I've been using and is kind of a standard. I put in a little video to tying the open loop knot for tying your fly on. And also I noted number 7, a hook file, which I think is very important. Keeping your hook sharp is super important. Sometimes you might get a little touch, and if you don't have a sharp hook, it might not kind of go down and bury into the mouth. And I even added a little from the Welch's Fly Shop, sharpening hooks made easy. A little video from Mark at the shop there. Mark was on the podcast. Let's see, in a past episode. I guess I can look these up. Let me just see, because I think some of these are fun. Actually, Mark, the episode we did was on the Sandy at number 86. So if you want to listen to that episode, you can go listen to Mark. We talk about, I guess we got into some rods and gear too as well. We're kind of covering, this stuff, I guess double, triple time. But and scrolling down again, vest pack, some other basic stuff, polarized glasses. I like using yellow lenses, especially for the winter when it's dark out. Those seem to work better. I talked a little bit about flies, grabflies.com. I'm highlighting here. Jeff was going to send me some flies for the trip. I also interviewed Jeff Layton, and you can kind of press play there on the podcast and listen to that episode. Let's see. He recommends Jeff's number 1 pattern for winter steelhead is the artificial intelligence. I've got a link there that I think goes out to maybe a video. And let's see what else we got there. I guess I noted aqua flies is the link. So if you want to pick up those flies there. But Jeff also sells these flies. And there's a little bit of a snippet. I'm not going to read this, but Jeff summarized. I had a question about fishing the OP, and Jeff gave us a little summary on hooks, shanks, fly color, and things like that. And continuing down, I linked to a post by Jay Nicholas, who also talked about choosing the right colors. I think that was on the Oregon Fly Fishing blog. Let's take a look here. I'll just click it and see here. Yeah, he just talks best winter steelhead fly colors, and he goes into the top tier, the middle tier, and the bottom tier. And the top tier, as you guessed it, black, purple, and blue. But you can take a look at that. It's kind of I think an interesting little short article. Waders, obviously, you got to have waders. There's a ton of good ones out there. And wading boots and studs. I like wearing studs, so you don't have to. And I guess if you're in a raft, studs might not be the best. One thing that probably is, if you're not going to do studs, the Rock Treads Forest has a pretty cool product I put a link out to. And then wrapping up the first set is just a link to go get your fishing license, and that's for Washington. Obviously, we're kind of focusing on Washington here. So, just wanted to highlight that really quick. That's the first section. We're going to get into, I guess I'll zip through the apparel too really quick, just so we kind of cover it maybe, but in not too much detail. Before we get there, I just want to note that we do have, believe next week, we have a giveaway coming up. And this is not a steelhead trip, but this is to Pyramid Lake. And I am working with a couple cool guys, Brian over at Got Fishing and Dennis at Wild Fish, Wild Places. He's got the kind of a TV show that is pretty cool. So we're putting together a giveaway for a trip to come out and go fishing with us, and we got a bunch of other products and things like that. So February is going to be the month we're going to really be launching that, which is going to be fun. And so let's just jump into this. So the second tier here is the apparel list, and let's just kind of zip down through wool socks, base layers. I kind of talk about my base layer. If you haven't really been out much in the winter, maybe you're from, I know a couple of people on the trip are at least from warmer climates. So if you haven't been to the winter and rain and all that stuff, I think layering is important, because some of these trips out here, it might be 39 degrees and raining, it might be snowing, but then you could pop out and all of a sudden the sun comes out, the next day or later that day, and it's, it could be 50, 60 degrees and warm. So I think being able to pop off the layers is good. I note here, Patagonia, obviously I love to support Patagonia and give shout outs there. I have I still have a pair of pants. I think I talk about it here. A pair of Patagonia pants I've had for 20 or 30 years, fleece pants that are amazing. Let's see again, babe. This is I guess I had note it here as my 5-step layering process. And, you can take a look at that. It's not rocket science there. One thing I do like is a hoodie. And the nice thing about a hoodie is I think it's a pretty much go-to piece of gear, because your neck is the one place that gets super cold, and your head. But if it's cold out, you throw on a hoodie, kind of a fleece hoodie or whatever underneath your rain jacket hoodie, if a stocking cap if you need it, but maybe just with a ball cap, which is what I wear a lot. I mean, you're pretty much good to go. You throw that on, you got 2 layers on your head and neck, you're super warm. So definitely recommend a hoodie. Depending on the day, fleece vest. Obviously, we're looking fleece or wool is kind of the main stuff here. Raincoat or shell. Some of these runs we're going to be fishing deeper potentially, so having a short rain jacket, kind of a wading rain jacket can be helpful. So I recommend that. Stocking cap, definitely wool if you can. Stay with wool. Got a little link in there as well to the Wet Fly Swing trucker hat. Moving down, wool fingerless gloves. I've got a pair of gloves I think are pretty awesome. These are the Fox River gloves, and I pick them up at REI. There's a link in there. You can take a look, and these are just really simple. They're not super heavy, but it's almost like when you put these things on, you don't even notice you have gloves on. I think they're the best things out there, because you don't want super thick gloves where you can't do stuff, but you want gloves where you can still tie your knots and do all that stuff. I threw in a little scrolling down, continuing a little link to an article on landing fish, just kind of to note, again, we're coming up on this trip to the OP. By the way, if you want to check out that OP trip or sign up for a future trip, I think you can just go to wetflyswing.com/OP. Let's see where that takes you. So that goes to just a landing page where you can enter your email. And this trip is booked, although actually this trip we may have had a cancellation. I'm not totally sure on that, but so there might be a chance you could slide into the trip this year. But either way, if you get your name on that list, I'll kind of follow up with you for the next year's trip. And you know how it goes. It seems like next year is a long ways away, but I don't know about you, but the years fly by, and I know that steelhead trip next year is going to come up just as fast just super fast. So continue down. I love to throw in, I guess wrapping this up, a down jacket. Typically I'm not wearing down out there, but down stuffs up really nicely in your bag. So if you have your little bag or in your vest, you can just throw a little extra jacket. And, if you get cold out there or wet, you could always strip off some of those layers and put on a wool or a down jacket to kind of warm you up. So I kind of love that. And I guess we're moving down into the third column. See how we're doing? Oh yeah, we zipped through that one really fast. So we're doing well here. I'm going to keep moving down here and just touch on this next section is I guess kind of the extra breakdown, extra list, but quickly just kind of note some snacks. Guidebooks or maps, again, if you're on your own, having maps of the river is important. GPS or app, keeping track of where you're at. You could download plenty of apps, topo maps, whatever, that show where you're going. The waiting staff is one thing that I've been using a little more, I guess, in those areas that are a little more technical and you want to hang tight and not let the water push you around as much. I recommend a waiting staff. I have a link Well, actually, I put a link into another Bachman post about waiting staffs. Dry bag. This one is, I think, very important. Just having a bag to keep your stuff dry. Like I mentioned, the down jacket, because it could definitely get nasty out there, and you want to be able to keep your stuff dry. So I know the NRS bag, but actually Sagebrush Dry has been a great partner that we're just connecting with, and I have an episode. Let's see. I believe it's coming up in the next couple of weeks with John from Sagebrush Dry. He has a company actually up in Cake, Alaska, where he produces all of his bags up there, and obviously kind of a local company for up there, but he sends them out all over the world, and I think that's a pretty cool company. If you want to support him, check out Sagebrush Dry. A couple other notes here, maybe a waterproof phone case, although some of the phones now are waterproof, so we're kind of skipping that. I always have a headlamp, a pocket knife. You can throw a net in there. So those are a few of the things wrapping up that final category. And then I just highlight a couple of episodes. These are kind of ones that I like. So let's just play the first one. This is from Jack, episode 02. This is the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Podcast, episode number 2.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly.
So that was the intro. I don't remember, Jack. I wanted to throw something fun. Let's just do random.
Fish are moving, and that's a quick attack glide, let's call it.
There you go.
That is 2 to 5 feet deep and smooth. I love dual density lines. Where you have integrated intermediate into the head itself, mm-hmm. And then when I'm fishing pocket water, slotty water, when I'm fishing abrupt water, I tend to like a Skagit because I'm and a shorter, generally 7.5 feet to 10 feet of tip, and a heavy bug, so I can drop it into the slot, if you will.
Yep. No, that's a great point for sure.
So there you go. That was about at the 16-minute mark in on episode 002. If you want to hear Jack talk about more of that, you can go to that episode. Next one I have here is Trey Combs. Let's listen a little bit on Trey. This is pretty epic for me. Let's see what we got here.
This is
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Publications or what?
I kind of wanted to get into that, and then when you get this far along in your writing, there's an opportunity to do some reflecting too on where the sport has gone, and the loss of so many runs of steelhead, just tragic. So on the one hand, it's a history I wanted to write about, and Jack's independent guides, they're independent business people, but there's some sort of protection they have. But in that run, that guy would hook it.
Yeah,
and I think.
So there's a little taste of Trey. There's a ton of good stuff. I wish I had. I wish I would have prepared on that and had a good snippet and stuff. It gave me random shot. But let's just keep going. We got Simon. This was episode 9. Simon, the great Simon Gosworth. Probably talking about lines.
This. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just somebody that wants to. Loves the spay cast. Maybe there's a bunch of thick brush behind them, but it's a small river, so they don't feel like even maybe a switch rod is a little bit too big. So something where they could still. I mean, a switch rod is pretty similar to a single-handed rod, but say you had a 10-foot 8-weight and you wanted a good line to do some spay casting.
There are a couple of options. I mean, there's lines that we design for one-handed rods. We have a line called a single-handed spay, an in-touch single-handed spay line. And that's exactly what it is. It's designed to spay cast and roll cast with.
Okay.
That's in a floating version or a intermediate tip, which is a pretty damn sweet line for swinging. And that goes up to an 8-weight. But, one of the best things, an awful lot of people don't realize that there are actually 2 fly line standards in the industry. There's the Afterma standard, which most people are familiar with. Mm-hmm. The 8-weight rod you quoted, for example, is part of.
So there you go. There's Simon talking about some good stuff on the AFTA, the different standards. And we got 2 more here. And actually one of them here, I'm going to jump into Jeff really quick, and then we're going to jump into the Line Speed Jedi, which is one of my favorite episodes.
This is episode.
Rivers are June now because it's been so hot, but and the run's just the shoulder season just starting. But you get in July and August, the water's warmed up, and you can start skating and just taking the muddler across. Or back in the day, my first fish was caught on a green butt skunk.
Cool.
And that was the fly. But that was the day before we had things.
I guess we're talking more winter fish here. Anything you utilize or you teach people that helps them get into their first fish or two?
Well, with the winter, it's a lot about timing and the weather. So you have to.
Okay, and this is a good one. I know, Tim, I started right off from the start here with a good intro, so let's listen to it.
He let me fly his airplane with my brother in it, and we flew down and landed on a sandbar, and we caught silvers like crazy. But he's a mentor, one of my best friends, and we fished and we flew, and we. Oh my!
Did we miss something here as far as the flight? So you were flying a plane?
Back then in my Alaska days, I did.
So how did you get to a point where you're flying planes?
That was. You could hear how definitely I was surprised. That was pretty amazing to hear that story. So you can listen to their episode. I didn't even mention that was episode 27. With Tim Rollins. And I guess I did throw in one more in here. This is OPST with James Millard. He's a cool dude. Been connecting with OPST, and let's hear what he has to say here.
A big salmon fly off the river.
I've not eaten a salmon fly. Towards the end of my degree at the because the water warms up. The water drops, and how you talked to Trey Combs, and this is where I've kind of gotten this idea while listening to some of his presentations over the years. But water temperature is so important for fish, and summer fish and winter fish are two completely different. They're totally different animals, but they're very much driven by water temperature. And so those fish aren't really as active in warm water. They wait for it to cool off in the fall, and that's when we end up getting those 5 fish days. They're there the whole time, and so I'm thinking to myself, maybe Tom's way of doing things is something that we need to look at, and catch these fish in the middle of the day, because, there are gear guides that do go out and fish all through the, July and August. And I usually leave the river alone until, it's easier to catch the fish. I don't want to work hard.
But you can take a look at those podcasts. You can just press play and listen to some good steelhead podcasts there. And I finish up with the, PDF checklist as well. So that is pretty much it. That's a quick little rundown from the little post that's coming out. I just want to highlight that because we are getting closer to the winter steelhead trip. I want to make sure that you have all the information you need if you're new either to that trip or just steelhead in general. So I hope this is helpful to those if you're just getting started. And you can go to wetflyswing.com/winter gear. That's WINTERGEAR. And that'll redirect you to this blog post where you can check out some of those links and get some of the information. So that's all I have for now. I'll be checking back with you on the next one, and maybe leave a comment or send me an email if this was helpful, and if you want to hear more of these little bonus quickies. This isn't your typical hour-long episode or even hour-plus long episode. A little short snippet, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com. And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes.